We're coming up on the final stretch of lessons here. Now we're going to take more of a bird's eye view, looking at social media platforms and how to approach and use them. We've made the video, now what do you do with it? Where do you go from here? So there are lots of different platforms to publish your videos on, and the mechanics of uploading to each platform, they change often enough that you're going to want to do some Googling to help if you're having any trouble. And just, the more that you upload, the more you're going to figure out. It'll get easier the more you do. Most of what we'll talk about here is from a time when I was the social media manager with the Young Americans. I started there as strictly the YouTube guy, but as my department, as we got more successful, we eventually handled all the social media, the postings, and the marketing. But let's talk about each platform. When people talk about social media, they usually start with Facebook and figure everything else out from there, and I understand that. Facebook, it's everywhere. But I'd like to start talking first about YouTube. YouTube, what I like about them is a couple of things. First, it's pretty permanent. Most social media platforms, they're designed to be kind of throwaway. You put up content, people see it across a few days, sometimes just across hours, and then effectively it's gone. People, they can of course find it if they go digging for it, but they have to dig, which doesn't happen much. People usually are just scrolling through their timeline. But YouTube is just always there. Well, videos, they do get promoted and watched more when they're new. They're still just always there. You can post the YouTube video on your website and in emails, and it'll play easily without having to click through to another app or website. You can add cards and end screens that help promote your other content. I just like the permanence of it all. YouTube's intention is to play your video forever. YouTube is also one of the biggest search engines on the internet. They're second only to Google, who happens to own YouTube. People, they're always looking for things on YouTube, so it has a huge audience that isn't just people who already know about your organization. It's great for getting your message out to new people. If you're ignoring YouTube, you're ignoring an important way that people can find you. YouTube also makes it easy to schedule your video postings in YouTube Studio. I often schedule these videos a week or more in advance, and then they usually come out on Tuesday morning around 11 a.m. my time. But I schedule that. And Facebook. Facebook is great for getting your message out to your followers. And Facebook is huge. Everyone goes to Facebook all the time. I've tried to cut back on Facebook, but I still check it every few days because stuff is happening on Facebook. Everyone is on Facebook, and you need to be there too. So for getting the word out about your organization to your audience, Facebook, it's great, but it can also be two-edged. People can easily share things on Facebook, so your followers, they can get your message out to their friends, who may get it out even to their friends, but there is a cap to that. Your message is probably going to stay within certain demographics because, again, it's your followers and their friends. You'll get great feedback because the people who you know, they're going to see it, and that's who you'll hear from, but I'm not convinced that it reaches new people or new communities as well as other platforms can. Also, Facebook intentionally, they quiet posts from business pages. That means they show posts from personal profiles more than they do from business pages. They had a big campaign a few years back promoting how they're making Facebook more personal. That it's about you and your friends. And what that was actually about was they were making business pages less prominent so that businesses then have to pay to promote their posts to get the same traffic that they were getting before the change. And we'll talk about all that a little more later. But as a business page, you do get the Facebook Business Suite, which lets you schedule posts in advance. You can post to Instagram and Facebook both at the same time if you have your accounts linked. You can see post performance, and there's a number of other tools that are well worth the trade-offs. Now, speaking of Instagram, they only allow videos 60 seconds or less. So you'll likely need to create or adjust your content specifically for Instagram if you want to post there. But Instagram is definitely worthwhile. First, its audience, they run a little younger than Facebook and a little hipper than Facebook. So if that's good for your organization, there you go. Now, when I run a social media campaign, I usually make YouTube, that's where the pristine this will live forever material goes. Facebook, I usually am a little looser. More content that may not pass the YouTube bar might go to Facebook. And Instagram, well, that's even less structured. The photos or things that wouldn't quite make the Facebook cut, we would often share on Instagram because that audience, they're just looking for more fun. And Instagram also has more discover tools that let users find content beyond just what their friends share. So there's a better chance of being found on Instagram by new audiences. Now, all of that is just scratching the surface of three platforms, the three major ones. Next up, we'll look at a few other social platforms and planning for all of them.